Hey guys, it's Shahira, and it's been a while. Welcome back to the Life and Style podcast, where we discuss, talk about things that impact our lifestyle. So, for this episode, I am going to be talking about a health condition that affects the female reproductive system. It's called the Mayer-Rokitansky-Küster-Hauser syndrome. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. But for short, let's call it MRKH, okay? So MRKH is a condition that affects one in every 5,000 women. I hope I'm getting that right. The condition is characterized by an underdeveloped vagina and uterus. The uterus may be small or absent, and the vagina is typically shortened. So due to this, the woman who has the condition typically cannot carry a pregnancy. So we are gonna be diving into the story of an incredible, inspiring woman who has been living with MRKH, and her name is Nur Syazwani Abdul Rahim, better known as Wani RD. You may have come across her articles or her story on the internet before, but today she has ever so kindly graced us with her presence here on the Life and Style podcast. So hi, Wani.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so with the let's just get a head start to it. Okay, so
right.
with MRKH, I mean, let's just understand this a little bit better. Maybe you could share with us, like, and our audience, for example, maybe because if they don't know what MRKH is, what is MRKH? Maybe you could share with us.
So basically, it's a rare disorder. As you've mentioned, one every 5,000, and lately it has occurred even more frequent, one in 4,500 to 5,000.
Okay.
So we are receiving more cases year after year. Usually, MRKH women were born without uterus, or with really small uterus, but not functioning, underdeveloped basically, and without vagina or very short vagina.
Okay.
So in my case, I was born without uterus and without vagina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your life journey and how did you come to get yourself diagnosed with MRKH?
Okay, so the biggest sign was that I've never had any period.
Okay. And how old were you then?
I was in secondary school, so about 16, 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, obviously all of my schoolmates, my female friends, they've had their period. And, year after year, I was the only one left
Okay.
without having any menses. So my mom told me, Wani, why not we just get your SPM settled first, and then we go and see a gynecologist. So that was how I got diagnosed. But of course, it didn't happen, straightforward. We were basically hopping from one clinic to another, one hospital to another, one gynecologist to another, because it's a rare disorder. So a lot of, and I'm talking about, over 20 years ago. So it was really rare. There was no awareness whatsoever back then. I mean, even today, you can still come across people who have never heard of this syndrome condition.
Yeah.
So what else, over 20 years ago. So a lot of doctors that I met first, they couldn't, come up with a diagnosis. They were like, I've never seen this before. I've never had, this kind of case. I've never handled this kind of patient. So maybe you want to see my colleague at another hospital.
Okay.
So it was quite a journey.
Sorry, this was in like private or government, or like some was like the
Private.
Okay.
Yeah, private.
Okay.
So I don't remember going to the government. It was private
All right.
hospitals,
Okay.
one after another. I think I was seeing doctor number 6 probably.
Doctor number 6,
yeah,
okay.
That she came up with a diagnosis. But even so, she didn't mention MRKH. She just said, most likely you were born without uterus, and she didn't mention that I didn't have vagina as well.
She didn't mention.
She didn't mention.
Okay.
But I could tell from her face that she was still keeping something else,
Okay.
some other info. So the way she broke it out to me and my mother was like, most likely she was born without uterus, which means she wouldn't be able to get pregnant. And in the future when she wants to get married, come back and see me. Like, I have more to tell, something like that.
Okay.
So it was really confusing for me. This was at a time when we were not closely attached to using Google and the internet. So my only source of information was obviously the doctors. So the only information that the doctor could give me was that you just happen to not have a uterus. So I was
Okay.
like, okay, what is that supposed to mean? Like, am I the only one like this in the whole world? Am I a girl or am I not?
Okay.
Is this a disease or what? What is this? And what am I supposed to do about this information? So there was so many
Confusion.
confusion, so many questions unanswered. But naturally, as I was really young, I mean, I was 16, 17, and me being 17 over 20 years ago was very different compared to 17-year-olds today. So I was not matured or aware. I was really young. So I focus on my mother, to be honest, because my attention was on her, because I could see that she was not receiving the information
Very well.
very well. Yes.
Okay.
So it affected her negatively. Of course, she didn't show me, her truest feelings, being a typical Asian parent. But I could see the worry on her face, and she was like, maybe it's best for you to not get married, like out of the sudden.
Okay.
I mean, for you to tell your 17-year-old daughter that. So it added more confusion to me, like, why?
Yeah.
Why I can't have a normal life,
Okay.
a normal family, you
Okay.
know. So at the age of 17, instead of worrying about studies, instead of worrying about friends and things like that, I had to worry about not having my own family in the future, not being wanted, not having my own children. Like, is there anybody who's gonna marry me? Am I gonna be different for the rest of my life?
Right.
What happened when my parents are not around and my siblings are all settled down? Am I gonna be alone forever?
Okay.
So I had to grow wise beyond my age.
Okay.
Yeah, so to speak.
Okay, so the doctors eventually diagnosed you.
Okay, so I found out about the name MRKH syndrome actually when I was in my early 20s, when I've started using the internet regularly, and I googled no uterus condition, and then I found out this condition called MRKH syndrome. I read so much articles on it, a lot of scientific articles, medical reports, and the symptoms mentioned in those articles are so familiar with what I was going through.
Okay.
And on top of that, I also discovered a support group in the US. It was probably the only support group I could find
At that
during
time.
that time. So I joined that support group, and they educated and shared with me a lot about MRKH syndrome, way more than what all of the doctors that I've seen
consulted before. So wait, from the age of 17, when you're seeing all those doctors, until those early 20s when you discovered it by yourself, you didn't know exactly what you had.
Yes, no.
So you were just in like confusion, like like they didn't put a name to it. These doctors.
No name. And to be honest, I was just like, I tried to brush it off basically, because I didn't have a name for it, so I didn't want to be in a confused state all the time. So I brushed it off. I tried to ignore it. I sort of, lived in denial and pretended that this thing didn't exist. But of course, it was really hard because, at that age, you're moving out of home, you're pursuing your studies, and you're starting to, find your passion, grow your career, and things like that. So you see people settling down, and you see your friends getting into relationships and whatnot, and eventually having future plans. And where else, me, I didn't have the courage to have any future plans because I don't know what my future would be like. Because to begin with, I didn't even know what is this thing that I'm having.
Okay, so I mean, as you mentioned just now, you were at that peak age where you're moving out, you're finding your path. So I mean, having to worry about that on top of your own health condition, how did that impact your sort of I would say progress in finding your path? Did it impact you negatively, or how did you navigate your way through it?
It definitely impacted me, especially in terms of my self-esteem. Like, ever since I was a little kid, I always knew I had that feeling that I was different.
Okay.
Most of the time, it's because I got sick easily. And I got warded every couple of years, every few years.
Okay.
Yeah, because my kidneys and my bladder, always acting up, sensitive and whatnot. So, being a kid who fell sick frequently and easily, that definitely impacted my mental health as well.
Okay.
And then
This is before you found out.
yes.
Okay.
And then after I found out the fact that I was born without uterus, that impacted my mental health even further. Like I said, especially in terms of my self-esteem. So my confidence were really low. It was really hard for me to believe that I had any value. Like if I was worthy at all, and it was really hard for me to believe in myself, for me to believe in my talent, for me to believe in my skills, whatever that I have to offer. But all that slowly changed when, after I finished SPM, I pursued performing arts for my diploma. So during my diploma years was, I guess, the time when I picked myself up and learned how to express myself through creative ways.
Okay.
Like whatever positive, negative emotions that I have, I became a totally different person on stage. So yeah, eventually I found my way of how am I going to handle this issue of having low self-esteem.
Okay. Did you confide in any friends about this?
I did. But to be honest, it was not satisfying in the sense that because they wouldn't understand.
Okay.
And most of the time my friends would be like, they would sympathize. And I didn't want sympathy. I wanted information. I wanted answers. So I hated it. I still hate it when, people sympathize and like, oh, poor you, it must be really hard. I mean, I appreciate those sentiments, but also it was not what I was looking for. I was not looking for sympathy. I wanted someone who understand what I was going through. So I guess that was the reason why I started the support group MRKH Malaysia.
Okay.
I got inspired from the support group in the US. So basically, I observed how they would educate and how they would support their members. And from there, I was like, if I could feel this empowered and this supported through a support group that's like, thousands of miles away, imagine if there's a support group just like that here in Malaysia with people of similar background and culture. So I was like, instead of waiting for that support group to happen, why not I just start one?
Okay. So how's that going? How many years has it been since you started?
I started the support group MRKH Malaysia in 2014, I think. So it has been a decade. It has been 10 years. I was 30 years old during that time, and it was how do you call it? It was me trying to make something out of myself at the age of 30.
Okay.
I was like, okay, now that I'm 30 years old, what have I done in my life? What have I achieved? How do I contribute to the society and things like that? So, for me to gradually progress from this 17-year-old girl who got diagnosed with a condition that didn't have a name, it took me a lot of years for me to finally be ready to go out there and talk to the public about my condition.
Okay.
So that only happened when I was
30
years old. Yeah.
So would you say that it took you that long for you to sort of maybe finally come to terms with or accept it as part of your identity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because from time to time I get a lot of MRKH girls and MRKH women coming to me and like, Wani, I wish I'm as strong as you are. And I'm like, this didn't happen overnight, like I got diagnosed at 17, but I only went public when I was 30 years old. So it took me a long time for me to make peace with it, for me to renew my redha every other day. So that's one of the most important things that I discovered, the fact that the concept of redha is not something that happened once and then it stays. It's something that has to be renewed.
Correct.
So yeah.
Okay. Was there, throughout this journey of yours, was there any sort of like a really low moment, like a low point of your journey where you were so impacted maybe by your environment or surroundings that contributed to that particular moment where, like, this is not, I can't accept this or anything? Did you have any of those moments throughout your journey?
To be honest, I never felt like I couldn't accept it. I think because I've been raised by a father who always remind me to bersangka baik dengan Tuhan. So that has been instilled in me since I was young. So the moment I got the news, I was never mad at God. Like, I never questioned, like, why is this happening to me? Why out of 5,000 girls, it's me? Why am I chosen? So I never questioned that. And yes, but I do understand people who would question that, I understand where they're coming from. I feel like I'm very blessed and privileged because I was raised by a father who would remind me again and again, believe in what God has written for you, no matter how hard it is, believe in it. So I think for me, the hardest part would be for me to actually value and love myself. That's the hardest part.
Okay.
The hardest time of my life would probably be during my 20s.
Okay.
That was the hardest, I think. The moment I hit 30, I kind of settled down mentally, emotionally. But during 20s, it was haywire. It was a roller coaster, because just like any other girl, during the 20s, there's so many things happening, right? Like I said, you trying to build your confidence, finding your purpose and your position in this world, trying to build your career, trying to build a relationship, trying to maintain a relationship. So many things. So even for girls who are normal, it's already really hard. So what more it was for me with this condition. So of course, in terms of relationship, I did face rejection due to my condition. But having said that, I also kind of self-sabotage and, reject people because I don't think that I am worthy enough.
Okay.
So
Rejection mean like relationships.
yes.
Okay.
So yeah, and not just relationships actually. Come to think about it, I've had opportunities in terms of career, even
Okay.
like opportunities for me to fly higher and just expand my wings. But I really had problem with self-confidence. I didn't believe in myself.
Okay.
So I struggled really hard in my 20s. But I finally settled down. I think me started the support group was really me saving myself
Okay.
rather than me trying to save. Like, it seemed like I'm trying to save everybody else, but it was really me saving myself.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned your relationships just now, like when you in your 20s. So you've had relationships. Did you open up about this to anybody, or you just kept it to yourself, or was it like a comfortable thing for you to open up?
You mean, did I tell my partner during that time? I did. Actually, one of the relationships that I had, one of the first one, I didn't tell him. I think I only told him after a year or two, and he totally freaked out. And I learned from that incident, like, okay, next time, I should tell a little bit earlier. But even that didn't work.
Okay.
So yeah, most of the time I would tell my partner because I think they have the right to know. And I don't want to lie to anyone, and I don't want to give false hope, anything like that. So usually I'm very transparent.
Okay.
So it came down to how they decide to respond to it.
Okay. And any thing you want to share with us, like any responses that were like, oh my god,
some of them took it well, but the thing about Asian culture, you're not just, if you have any plans to marry a person, you're not just marrying
the
person, you're marrying the
family.
Yeah. So sometimes the person couldn't accept it. Sometimes the person could accept it, but his family was not okay with it. So there's always something just not okay. But again, like I said, it's I'm not blaming anybody. Everybody has their preference. So I was never like, why can't you accept my condition? Because I tried to put myself in their shoes. Like, imagine if I have a boyfriend and my boyfriend, told me, I was born without this and I couldn't give you any kids. So I probably wouldn't, take that very well either. So I never blame anyone. I just see it as that's their preference.
I see. Okay, what a positive mindset to have. I'm sure not many people can have the same mindset as you. But having gone through all of this, like, did at any point that made you feel like any less of a woman? Did it make you feel any less of a woman, or you're just
yes, especially when being a teenager and having to go through so many medical checkups and treatments and experiments, and at one point I felt like a lab rat. Having to go through all this checkups and whatnot, and the kind of questions that the doctors were asking me, it was confusing. Like, I remember the questions were, one of the doctors were like, do you like boys?
Okay.
And I was supposed to answer that in front of my mother. It was really awkward.
That's awkward.
It was super awkward. So she was like, do you like boys? Or do you prefer girls? Like, I was like, define like? Like, what? And And another doctor was like, "Oh, but you sound like a girl, and you walk like a girl. Like, can you take off your clothes? Can you like walk for me? You know, can you?"
That's so weird.
Yeah, it was really weird, and it was weird. It was frustrating to see that the doctors were as clueless as I was. You know, I was expecting answers. I mean, at that point, I was like, you know, at least probably just fake it for me, like just pretend that you know
Yeah.
better. But
Were these female or male doctors?
both.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and
Oh.
one of the doctors even called his colleagues and like, you know, you got to see this, you know. So
Wow.
I felt like a show kind of, you know.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
and for doctors to ask me those kind of questions like, do you like boys? How come you sound like a girl? You know,
I am a girl.
how come you look like a girl? And I was like, am I not supposed to be a girl?
Okay.
So I started questioning myself, like, am I
Mm.
supposed to be a boy? Am I supposed to? And I remember going through, you know, adolescence, teenage years. I actually tried to like girls because, like I actually made effort to like girls and see, like,
Is this
But-
what it's supposed to be?
yeah, you know,
Oh.
but obviously it just didn't work. Like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
it didn't work.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did feel less of a girl, and then growing up, my only comfort. I mean, for a lot of women, I don't think they see this as a comfort, but for me, having a monthly ovulation pain is a comfort because my only, I guess, female organ inside is my ovaries.
Okay.
That's the only one. So whenever I, you know, experience ovulation pain monthly, like us MRKH girls, we don't have uterus, but we still have ovaries. So we
Yes.
do have ovulation pain. We just don't have the period, the
Mm-mm.
blood. So for me to experience ovulation pain monthly, even though it hurts like hell, but it has always been a comfort for me, like knowing that, oh, I have ovaries. I'm a girl. I'm a woman. You know.
It's like a reminder, soft reminder that yes,
Yeah.
you are a woman.
Yes.
Okay.
And I remember, like, there was this one time when the pain got really bad, and I went to see a gynecologist about it, and she was like, you know, why not I put you through this treatment medication where you will stop ovulating because, you know, you don't need the eggs anyway.
yeah.
And I was like, it's okay. I'm gonna live with the pain. Like, I want the pain.
Okay.
I need the reminder.
Yeah. Let's just talk a little bit about your the support group you
Mm.
founded. How what else do you envision yourself to do more for it?
Okay, so we started in 2014,
Mhm.
and then beginning 2017, we've been partnering with UKM Hospital.
Mm-mm.
So we do have researchers and doctors and surgeons and gynecologists and even psychiatrists part of our support group. So, you know, just trying to make it holistic for the members. So I don't want the support group to just be a place where members would rant out to each other. Of course, that's equally important as well.
Okay.
But I also want our members to be supported in terms of medical assistance, getting counseling if they have issues regarding their mental health, and if they want to go through a surgery to construct vagina, they can do that as well. And right now, as we're speaking, right now, us, MRKH Malaysia and UKM Hospital, we're working on uterine transplant.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working on making that happen here in Malaysia
Okay.
for the first time. So it's already happening in a lot of other countries. So we're trying to bring that in Malaysia,
Okay.
where people can donate their uterus to MRKH girls.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
so
see.
there's a lot of successful procedures have been done outside of Malaysia, and most of these transplant happen between mother and daughter. Like the mother
It donates the
yes,
mm-mm.
she's gone through menopause and all that,
Mm.
so she doesn't need her uterus anymore. So she's donating that uterus to her
her
MRKH daughter. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. I just want to backtrack a little bit. You are currently married
Mhm.
and you have kids,
Mhm.
right? So can you tell us about that experience? Like, how did you come to tell your husband, and what was marriage like? You know.
It was not hard for me to tell my husband because it was one of the first things that I mentioned. Having gone through my 20s, so many failed relationships, I've learned a lot. So by the time I met my husband, I was like, no nonsense.
Mm-mm.
This is me, this is my condition. Either you take it or you leave it. So that's that. I have nothing to hide. And I love the fact that he actually studied
Mhm.
what is MRKH, instead of just accepting it as, oh, you cannot get pregnant. Okay, I understand. Because MRKH is not just about not being able to get pregnant, not being able to carry pregnancy. It's more than that, because it's also a condition where you were born without vagina or with really short vagina, which means it will affect your sex life as well with your partner. So I made that clear to him, and he was very accepting, and more important than that, he studied the condition and he read about it. Like, I caught him secretly reading up about it and just trying to getting himself informed, like really equip himself with whatever information that he would probably need, because obviously he has never heard about it. And yeah, and his family has been great as well. His family, they've been very welcoming, very accepting.
Okay.
I'm very blessed.
Okay. Yeah, a strong support system is
Yes.
very crucial, right? Okay.
Super.
So right now I recently read an article that in the US they released like a new film. It's called Fitting In. I'm not sure if you know.
Yeah.
So it's about a girl who has MRKH, and I just want to know how you feel about this, bringing this to the screen, raising awareness in their own way. How do you feel about that?
I heard about the film the day that it was released in cinema. Everybody, among the MRKH community was really excited about it. I haven't watched it. It's not here. Looking forward to watch it soon, I hope. I'm all about, representation. So I would love it if there is the right representation. And I mean, I don't want an MRKH girl to be represented on the screen just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I want it to be done right.
Yeah.
Because since I've started my advocacy 10 years ago, I do come across quite a number of novels, TV series, and different mediums of storytelling that tries to basically come up with a story of an MRKH girl or an MRKH character. I appreciate this representation. I would also like this representation to be accurate.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's important for them to find someone who actually
Has.
yes.
Okay.
as reference, and just to get the facts right. And also, um, I don't like it. Okay, but this is me personally. I don't like it when an MRKH character um, is being presented in a sorry kind of way. Yeah.
Not to draw empathy or sympathy.
Yes.
Right.
That's red flag for me. That's a
Okay.
major no.
Okay.
So I want the character to be empowering.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's just me.
Okay.
I do understand that, having a character that is like so kasihan, and that would probably get more attention in terms of audience. That would probably sell better. But it's 2024.
Yeah.
So we're over that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Is there anything about before we wrap this up very soon? Is there anything about MRKH? People with MRKH. Is there anything about them, that you would want society to know?
Sorry.
That you would want society to know?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's important to note that MRK syndrome is not just about reproductive health. I think people, especially Asian people, we are putting too much pressure on the question of, are you going to have kids? Like, are you not going to have kids? Like, what life would be, doomed without kids, kind of thing. Like, MRKH, to me, living with MRKH is all about redefining motherhood. Like, that's what I've been teaching my children. Like, my children, obviously, they were not from my womb. I don't have one to begin with. So I'm teaching them that, mothers come in all forms, like not just biological mother. There's adoptive mother, there's your aunts, so there's your female teachers at school. So women are constantly mothering. Even when we don't have kids, we are constantly mothering. It's our nature. So redefining motherhood is a big thing for me as someone living as MRKH.
Okay.
And then redefining happiness. Happiness is not just about, you must kawin, you have to get married, you must have kids. Happiness comes in so many other forms, other than just marriage, other than just having kids.
Correct.
I think society needs to put less pressure on marriage and having kids, and not seeing those two things as, achievement in life.
Or the only thing that makes you happy.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So, living with MRKH taught me a lot of things, not just about redefining, but also about inclusivity. Me showing up as an MRKH advocate is me representing rare girls out there. Because, for example, in our support group, MRKH Malaysia, we have close to 200 members. But they're all hiding. And they prefer to stay that way. And I respect their privacy. I respect the fact that they want to hide their identity. So that's why it's very important for me to show up. I am representing my MRKH sisters. So I am showing Malaysia that we exist. There are not many of us, but we exist.
Yeah.
And UKM Hospital, they are receiving more and more cases, like at least one case every single week.
Okay.
For many, many years now.
Okay.
So we've been receiving more and more
cases.
Yeah. And these girls, they were just like me, confused and clueless. And I don't want these girls to go through what I went through. I want them to get all the information that they need, all the support that they need. And I want the society to know that MRKH is also about sexual health. So for girls like me, born without vagina, you can go through therapy or surgery for you to construct your vagina. So don't worry, there is a solution.
Okay.
So that is in terms of sexual health. But in terms of reproductive health, yes, for now, not having a uterus means that you wouldn't have your biological children.
Correct.
So adoption is another alternative. So it's another thing that I'm championing, adoption,
Okay.
because there are so many children out there who need families, right? As much as I'm championing for uterine transplant, I'm also championing for adoption. I think it's very important to give home to these children. So that is some of the things that I tell myself and I tell my sisters. It's how we comfort ourselves, how we assure ourselves this is our purpose in this world. Like, why are we chosen out of 5,000 girls? Why are we the chosen ones? It's because, maybe God want us to save children who need families.
Yeah.
Maybe God want us to show other people that, happiness should not have a certain default template.
Correct.
And mothers is not just about flesh and blood. It's more than that.
Yeah. Well, you really changed my perspective on life. Okay, this is one last question before we wrap things up. I want to know, like, as an advocate for MRKH, how can we be the society, or what can the government do or society do to raise more awareness on this and be more informed? What do you think we can do?
I think it's best to treat any issues regarding to women or women's health as a global issue. Right now, the problem is that we are treating women's issue as strictly just women's issue. So every time I'm doing advocacy work about MRKH, the people who would be listening and taking action most of the time are only women. I don't want to talk to just women anymore. I really want to see more men care. I really want to see brothers and fathers stepping up, because growing up in a typical Asian family, my brother and my father, they didn't know how to address the issue, and I totally understand where they came from. Obviously it was awkward for them. It was even awkward for my mother. What else would it be for my brother and my father? But to be honest, this is what I always tell mothers to MRKH girls: get your husband involved. It's so important for your husband to show your daughter that she is worthy, or else this daughter would feel like, if my father is not accepting me the way I am, what else are the men out there? And that's when she would self-sabotage. She would have really low self-esteem and not believing in, not believing that she's worthy and she has this amount of value. Basically I want to see men being more involved, because women's issue is not just for women. It's for everyone.
It's for everyone.
Because every man have girls and women in their lives. True. Obviously, right?
Obviously.
We coexist. So don't limit it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a really good sharing session from you, and I feel I hope that our audience is also inspired by Wani's journey. So this comes to the end of our podcast for today. Remember that every story has the power to educate, power to bring about positive change. So with that, I say bye-bye to the audience, and thank you again, Wani, for
having
joining us today and sharing your story.
You're welcome.
Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms, and I'll see you guys again on the next episode of Life and Style Podcast. Bye-bye.